Okay, so begin by creating a 2D object, sprites, and a square. And this is going to be our player, so just call it player. And create a 2D object sprite square and call this the floor. And move the floor down a bit and add a box collider to it, or a box collider 2D, and make the scale on the X bigger so it looks like a platform. And also add a box collider 2D onto the player and add a rigid body 2D to the player as well. Okay, so once you've added this, when you press play, it should drop and land on the floor. So now we want to add controls to the player so you can move it around. So create a new script called player, create an add, and double click it to open it up in Visual Studio. Okay, so once you have it open in here, we'll create a few variables. First one is going to be a float called move speed, and set this to something like 10. And we're also going to need a rigid body 2D and call it RB. And in the start method, set RB equal to get component of type rigid body 2D. And in the update method, set RB.velocity equal to a new vector 2 with RBVelocity.y on the y, and on the x, input.getAxisRaw. And in here, make sure to type this exactly the same, type horizontal, and multiply this by our move speed, and that should be good. Now come back into Unity, run this, and if you press A and D, it should move left and okay, so now we'll add jumping. First we need a bool called isGrounded, and set it to false by default. And here you can write on collision enter 2D, set isGrounded equal to true, and on collision exit 2D, set isGrounded equal to false. So now in the update method, if isGrounded and input.get key down keycode.space, then we'll add a force, so rb.addForce in the direction of transform.up, force mode 2d.impulse. And we also want to multiply this by something like float jump height, and we'll set this to 10f. Multiply it by jump height. Okay, so now come back to Unity, and the jumping works. So right now I'm spamming space, and it only jumps when we're grounded. So now we want to make you complete the game if you reach a certain area. So I'll just add a few platforms here that we can jump across, and I'll play this to make sure it works. Okay, so first we need to make the camera follow the player. So create a new script called camera follow, add it to the camera, and we'll need a public transform, and just call it the player. And in the update method, write vector2.lerp, and we'll go from our current transform.position to the player.transform.position. And we'll do this at 0.1f speed. And we'll set the current transform.position equal to this smoothed out variable. And now head back into Unity, open up the main camera that you just added the script to, and drag in your player. Alright, so now when you press play, something is going wrong. Okay, so I'll create a new vector2 and call it current position, and set current position equal to, in the start method, set current position equal to transform.position, and current position is going to be equal to the smoothed out variable, so it smoothly goes towards player.transform.position. And now we'll set the transform.position of the equal to this position. Okay, so the problem that we're having here is that it's changing the z location, so we'll create a new vector 3, and we'll just use the x value here and the y value here, and then for the z value we'll just use the current transform.position.z. And now if you go into Unity, it should finally work. So if we hit play, here's our player, and you can smoothen out the movement and the camera if you want. But yeah, we can jump from platform to platform, and if we make it to here, we want to switch to a new scene. That's going to be our windscreen. Okay, so create a copy of it and call it windscreen, and in the windscreen, save this, just create a new UI image and just set the image to something green. So this is what so when you win, it changes the scene to this place. And actually I'll remove the image and I'll just create a new text, and it'll just say win, and I'll make the text white as well. just to be able to see it better, and I'll also make it okay. So now come back into the sample scene, go to File, Build Settings, and make sure you drag your windscreen into here. So now we can switch between them. Alright, so once you come over here, copy and paste that, and just make it a bit bigger. Remove the sprite renderer, and on the box collider, tick is trigger, and create a new script, and call it wind scene, and double click it to open it up in Visual Studio. So in here, on trigger enter 2D, we need to use using Unity engine.scene management, so we can switch between scenes, and just type scene manager dot load scene, and type in the name. I think we called it windscreen. Let me see to make sure. Windscreen. Yeah, yes. Okay. So now if we press play, if we hop over these platforms to this one, we've won. And you can change this by reducing the hitbox, so once you land on it, you've won. And we can also create another thing. So we can create another object down here, and if you hit it, then it'll reset this current. So create a new script, create an add, reset scene, and on trigger enter 2D. Actually, we'll use on collision enter 2D. So you can have this floor here, and if you land on the floor, it resets the scene. Using Unity engine.scene management, and type scene manager dot, is there a reload current scene? Scene manager dot load scene sample scene. I'm not sure if it needs a space in between, but we'll see. Yeah, so you can see here, if we hit the ground here, it resets it. And if you make it to here, you go to the windscreen. So that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.